This is Ivy Unleashed, a Gold Ivy production. Hey everyone, welcome back to Ivy Unleashed. Today we are talking about all of the joys of being a woman, hormones, fertility, menopause. We're also going to dive into intermittent fasting, gut health, and more. Just a quick disclaimer, what you hear today is not in place of medical advice. You should always consult your healthcare provider on your own personal health journey. But today we're getting into functional medicine, and that is what saved my life. So we are so excited to have functional PA Hannah Newman here with us today. Hannah, welcome to Ivy Unleashed.
Thank you, ladies. I am pumped to be here. I can't wait. You already made me laugh. All the things about being a woman. So the good, the bad, and the ugly, right?
Yes, we've been anticipating this episode just because women have a lot of questions, and we do too. And I think it's important to learn about your own health and to not just think, oh, that's normal, I've heard that before, to really tap into what information can we gather so that we can own our health even more. We've done some testing. I did some anti-aging testing. Brooke did some hormone testing with Hannah. And so we're going to get into all of that. But first, we kind of want you to just dive into what functional medicine is for those that aren't really familiar with it like me.
Yes, perfect. So I really just say functional medicine is looking a little bit deeper. A lot of people say it's root cause medicine. So how I explain it is if you have a problem, I'm not going to just say, here is the solution. It's that exploring of, okay, what's going on entirely in your body, what's going on mentally, what's going on physically, and just seeing all the contributing factors for that. When you say functional medicine, sometimes they're like, oh, so you're a witch doctor, so you practice Chinese, and I'm like, you know what? It just means I'm going to take a little bit of time with you. We're going to explore that holistic lifestyle more.
Yeah. And for me, it was the first time that I really felt heard by a doctor, by a practitioner of, no, there's a reason you're having these symptoms. The body is a system. And when one thing is off, when you have this symptom, it's a signal, right, that something deeper is going on. And looking at the body, like I said, as a system of your hormones are connected to your gut health, your mental health, and I'm not crazy. I shouldn't feel this way. Just because I'm a woman doesn't mean that I have to deal with this. So I love what you do. And I'm curious why you got into functional medicine personally.
Yeah. So I live in Florida now, but I'm originally from the Midwest. I'm from St. Louis. And you don't really see until you leave, but the specific place I was in, it wasn't very conducive to what I would now call a healthy lifestyle. The weather wasn't great. The outdoor walking environments weren't ideal. The diet I grew up with wasn't ideal. So that all of that combined kind of just pushed me, into healthcare in general. I knew I wanted to do something with helping people be healthy. And I went to PA school in Florida, and we said, okay, we'll come down to Florida for PA school, and then we'll head right back up because our whole family is in St. Louis. But we absolutely stayed here, and we've been here for 5 years. And it's just that environment, it's the warm weather, everyone's outside walking, biking, you name it. And I just felt like I connected more with the physical environment of living here. And thankfully my whole family has come to join. But so going through PA school, just so much learning, of course, but you learn based on conventional medicine, which is super important. So, I had a lot of fun in my rotations. You get to be in surgery, you get to go to the ER, labor and delivery was amazing. But yeah, when I was in the ER, you just see the same people coming back and back. And that was my first experience in the ER. And I'm like, oh, I thought this was for emergencies. And why, is this guy back here for leg swelling? And you just learn that the healthcare system is amazing at treating these emergent conditions, but they're not so great at treating chronic conditions. So examples of chronic diseases are things like type 2 diabetes, heart disease, high cholesterol, a lot of things stemming from weight, to be honest. And that's what the system isn't great at providing ongoing care for. There's some great medications out there that help those conditions, but to really cure, if you will, that's where there's lacking information, lacking treatments for people. And there's a desire for that. So after PA school, I just personally sought out a provider that was in line with what I was looking for. So definitely not applying on Indeed or anything like that. I was like cold calling providers that just were advertising more like holistic functional medicine. And I found this just amazing. She's a female physician local to here, and she just became my mentor. And I was able to work with her one on one in her clinic, close enough to my house. And she just taught me, yes, let's use this conventional prescriptions as needed, but we're going to spend a little bit more time with these people. Like you said, Brooke, we're going to listen and just see what about their lifestyle. Are they sleeping? Are they eating? And not just say, okay, high cholesterol, here you go. See you in 6 months. And again, not knocking that at all. I absolutely prescribe, but it's just having that conversation, seeing what else that you can do and giving those options. And our patients were crazy loyal. Okay. The people that were like, wherever you go, we're coming. And they were just kind of, addicted to this type of care, and they felt better and the outcomes were better just because we were spending a little bit more time with them. And at the time, this was an insurance-based practice. So it wasn't, spending an hour with someone, but it was just spending, a decent amount of time where you could listen to them and give them some other options where they could kind of feel like they were having a part of their care. So that's what kind of led me, to where I'm at now, just seeing how much that care worked and how people responded and how you've really helped people, honestly. And that's how I kind of started my company, Healthy with Hannah.
Love it. And you're very accessible to everyone as well through TikTok, and you're on Instagram too. But TikTok, you've blown up recently because I feel like there's something about women where it's like we've accepted we have to suffer. Mm-hmm. It's like we've accepted we get these periods and we have cramps and we're nauseous when we're pregnant and we bleed and it's like we live like this. We're badasses, but a lot of women, I think, are really drawn to you because you're addressing something they've had to live with that they didn't realize could have some care for it, right? That you could be like, okay, these are signs of PCOS. You might be perimenopausal if this, and so I just want to acknowledge your presence there and that it's something that's free. If you're not in Florida, that they can find you to kind of, see all these one-offs at different ways to balance hormones or gut health or a million things that you talk about. And so thank you for providing that, because I think women are really drawn to you for those reasons, because they've never had anybody address like, oh, something might be off here. So how has that been, having your TikTok and having all these women starting to follow you and get some answers from you?
Yeah, I think what you said, I try to keep it broad. I try to not go too deep into one area and try to find something that everyone would relate to. And I think so far it's gone well. And it's just that acknowledgement. It's that acknowledgement of, okay, it's okay that you feel like this, but we can do something about it. But it's okay to talk about it, because unfortunately with, some providers, patients do bring this up. They bring up things they don't even want to talk about, like their sex drive. I have no sex drive. And if they have the courage to actually bring that up, and then your provider says, it's normal, you're just getting older. How discouraging is that? And I agree in a sense, like it is normal, but you don't have to sit feeling like this for the rest of your life. There's always something you can do. And I think that empowers women to, again, be a participant in their health, in their care. And TikTok, social media, it has been a really great outlet to share those things. And most of the, feedback has been really positive. So I'm happy to be able to help in that way.
Yeah. And there's things that you share that normal, quote unquote, conventional doctors, they don't talk about, right? They don't talk about hormones. For me, it wasn't talking about the foods I ate, how it affected my gut, how my gut affected my mental health. And I do believe, and you do too, that testing is super important, right? Knowing what you're working with, what is actually going on under the hood. But unfortunately, functional medicine is expensive. A lot of it isn't covered by insurance. And so what you share, Hannah, what we love is things that everyone can do. Foods you can eat, ways you can release some stress to help, and why that really affects you systematically. And one of those things is intermittent fasting, something that everyone can do. it kind of gets a bad rep. So let's talk about your view on intermittent fasting and who and why you recommend it for.
So intermittent fasting, it doesn't have to be the super intimidating thing. It's really just picking a time when you're going to be eating and a time when you're not going to be eating. And why that's important is because it gives your body a break. It lets you reset, in a ton of ways. And in one of my TikToks, I go through, by the hours of what that means. And, you start with things like, you just start fat burning, which is great. Most women want to hear that. But then you really, as the time goes on, you dive into your gut cells start to heal, start to, close back up if you have leaky gut. Your stem cells even can start to improve. Your brain, once you get into the 48 hours, starts to reestablish connections. Your immune system. I mean, the list goes on of the benefits. And a lot of this really stems back into the fact that, people snack a lot and snacking is kind of the societal thing now, and it's not always necessary for people. And a lot of the snacks aren't always great for us anyway. So it's just fueling your body with what you need and then giving your body a break so it can, get ready. It's like sleeping. Your digestive system needs that break too, to reset and to get started for the next day.
I always think about intermittent fasting versus intuitive eating, though, because we've had different dietitians talking about these things. And it's like, do you listen to your body? Do you not listen to your body? And so what's your thought on kind of like those hunger cues and what's happening if you're not listening to your hunger cues throughout the day?
Mm-hmm. So that's a good point. I think that an intermittent fast of 12 hours for most people is very doable. So what I mean by that is you stop eating at, let's say, 8 p.m. at night, and then you don't eat again until after 8 a.m. the next day. And for most people, you're probably saying, oh, I already do that, which is awesome. And if you can push that by an hour, great. But, it's different talking about a 12-hour fast versus a 16-hour fast when you're not eating until lunch. And yes, then you can definitely go counterintuitively where you're starving and you're not feeling good. And on one of my TikToks, I have a bunch of people who shouldn't be fasting, like pregnant people on certain medications, certain conditions. But if you feel okay, that's the number one thing I say to people. If you're feeling okay, then it's probably a good thing for you. And the first couple of days, expect to be a little hungry if this is a change for you. But if after that you have better energy, maybe your digestion's improving, that's probably a good thing for you to be doing, or at least try,
Yeah. And isn't it beneficial for aging as well?
Big time. Yeah, it's really the number one recommendation for aging is to eat less. I think some people take it to the extreme. Like I hear a lot of people eating just dinner, which I think is a little extreme. But it's all about, again, giving your body a chance to not be focused all on digestion, where it can focus on healing, on your cells, on your mitochondria levels, and really, altering that focus to helping you, maintain on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, I think people who question fasting, my gut goes to they've never been sick. They've never been in a position where they have to heal their body at a cellular level, right? And so they don't know enough about it. And so for those people who view it as negatively, view it as starving yourself, I would invite you to be a little more open about it, because what Hannah is saying is it does some pretty incredible things, something like autophagy, where it goes up and your cells literally clean up and sweep the bad cells that are causing you to be sick. And at all of these levels, right, there's a scientific reason for why to do it and how to do it in a way that it helps you heal. It doesn't hurt you even more. And when people say, I'm starving myself, are you really hungry? Or are you thirsty? Are you really hungry, or are you bored and you're hiding and running away from emotions and you just want to feed yourself?
Yeah.
So getting to know why you're eating, and if you are eating enough foods that are nourishing your body, if you are eating from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., I promise you can get enough food in that 8-hour gap, that 12-hour gap.
I think this word starving, though, is tricky, right? And triggering for some people that have had a history with eating disorders. And so like Hannah's saying, this is, for some people, it is not for you.
Right.
And you need to listen to your gut too. So like she's saying, if you feel good on it, if this works well with your mental health, this can help you with your digestive health. But in your gut, if it's like, that's not for me, that would play mind tricks on me, I've had a history of an eating disorder or disordered eating of any kind, it's probably not for you either. So this is for, that population of people that this feels like, oh, well, maybe this could help me out. I would have to make less decisions about food. It's mostly when I'm sleeping. Mm-hmm. I have had some gut health issues. I do want to age a little bit better. Like, this is for you. Yeah. So I just want to say, listen to your gut. If it feels like that would create a whole nother mental game, then it's probably not for you.
Yeah. Or if you're like, ooh, I want to learn more, invite that feeling in and learn more, right? Yep. Take ownership of your health. This is what this episode is about. Yep. And another thing I hear a lot about is hormone imbalances, myself included, dealing with that. So Hannah, I'd love to hear, maybe how intermittent fasting plays into balancing hormones and what else you recommend to figure out, are your hormones imbalanced and what to do about it?
Yeah, so this is probably the most common topic women come to me for. And this affects women. It can be starting in their 20s from then on, whether it's PCOS, endometriosis, perimenopause, or they are postmenopausal. And they come and they already kind of have an idea, which I think is interesting. They think their hormones are imbalanced. And then, I ask why. And it's things like sex drive's lacking, or I'm just freaking exhausted all the time, or I can't sleep anymore, or I'm eating the same exact thing I've been eating for 20 years. And now I have 15 pounds that I don't know how I got. So things like that are signals that women have. And going back to being intuitive, you kind of know when something's off. And so they want to get levels checked, or they want to see that proof, which I totally get, on a piece of paper that what they're feeling is validated. And what I see in conventional, with a traditional provider, is sometimes they don't want to check hormones, especially on a younger female. And that, it makes sense in lines of how you're taught in conventional medicine, because a lot of the treatments there, you can't do much with conventional medicine in terms of, giving a prescription to fix that. That's not going to happen, especially in a younger woman. You can give prescriptions to help symptoms for, severe PCOS or endometriosis, but unfortunately, it's not going to be a fix all, which is typically how conventional medicine works. So how do you know something's off with your hormones? A lot of those symptoms I mentioned, or maybe you don't even have symptoms, but women go through stages of their hormones throughout their life. It's just how we work. And things like intermittent fasting help support that. And what really helps support that even more is just what you're eating and what you're doing on a daily basis. And that's why I created my whole program that I just launched last week. And it's just a 1 month, every single day, I'm telling you what you can eat, what you can do with your body movement wise, a meditation, a reflection, and just some accountability in there. Because I find a lot of the time they have these symptoms, they want to get rid of them and they know that, but their daily life is not in alignment with their health goals and they're conflicting. And a lot of women think, I know, but I'm eating healthy, but it's a holistic thing, from your stress to your exposure to sunshine, so many things go into that. So to have a step-by-step guide is really an amazing place to start, especially if you're not going to or don't have access to getting your hormone levels checked.
When I think about hormones, right, I think about our stress hormones and cortisol and how so many of the clients Andrew and I speak to aren't taking time for themselves. And so of course they're stressed. Of course they are having cravings. Of course they're not sleeping well. And so I'm curious how with your clients, Hannah, and maybe within this program too, you do tackle stress, the kind of the stress versus sex hormones. And we can get into that later on how that affects stress hormones.
Yeah, for sure. So you are so right there. Cortisol is your stress hormone, and it's definitely the most downplayed thing that I treat. So cortisol is essential for us to live, right? We want it to go up and down. We want it to rise and fall depending on what's going on. And we have the rise part, but most women don't have the fall part. And that elevated steady state is where a lot of issues are stemming from, because we need cortisol to live. We don't need our sex hormones, testosterone, estrogen, progesterone to live. So in a sense, our body can start to, prefer it to make sure cortisol stress is good at all costs. And where I see it really is a problem is when women are going through these major hormonal changes, like after birth, like around menopause, where they're already dealing with their ovaries making less sex hormones and they're stressed. So it's just this whole downstream effect. And they're wondering why, they have no sex drive. And cortisol is also related to blood sugar production. And that, of course, stems down to risk for type 2 diabetes. And hand in hand with that is often weight issues. So as you can see, cortisol, stress is entwined with so many of these issues that women face. And if you think you're not very stressed, a lot of people say this, interestingly enough, they're just living their daily life. And I just like everyone to reflect on the typical life of a mom, because I see a lot of moms. And, I am a mom. So this is, a typical day that I can relate to, where I hear about, you wake up, it's early. You get your kids breakfast. Maybe you have time to get yourself ready. You get them out the door, you make them lunch. Maybe you have time to like brush your teeth and stuff. And then you have your day, right? You have your 8-ish hour day of whatever responsibilities you have. And then it's kids time, right? And then it's dinner time, it's sports time, it's let me go home and make a healthy dinner. I need time to do that, right? And then we have to get everyone to sleep and a bath. I mean, just saying that, like my cortisol levels rose. And that's a common day, 5 days out of the week for so many Americans. I won't even say women, for so many Americans. And if that's your normal, I can tell you your cortisol level is probably elevated. And it's because we're not giving time to fall. And what do I mean by that? Like, how do you really get it to fall? And, I'll get, Hannah, I don't have time to take a week off work and just sit on the beach. Yeah. I mean, most people don't, right? That would be ideal. But all you need is 10 minutes a day minimum for yourself. So, go outside for a walk, literally go sit on your bed in the dark. Just take a moment where you don't feel rushed, where you can say, okay, I can breathe for a couple minutes. Driving in your car, do a little breathing exercise, whatever, on a Calm app. I mean, there's so many accessible free things that you can do, but just get yourself where you have at least 10 minutes a day taking care of yourself, because that's the only way you're going to kind of balance those levels. And, you can see cortisol, it's disguised as other issues. So it can be sleep problems, like you're waking up 2 to 3 a.m., just popping awake, you don't know why. It can be weight, stubborn weight that won't come off. Sex drive, another thing. So cortisol is disguised, is entwined with all these issues that women don't know about. And, the last thing I'll add to that is with my clients, I test these levels. Every single one is coming, high. Or sometimes your adrenal glands, which make the cortisol, are so exhausted, if you will, that it's a flat line. They're like, I'm done. Like, we've been doing this too long. I am just tapping out on you, girl. And in that case, I'm like, okay, like everything else looks good. I just had one recently like this, and everything stemmed from this high state of stress that has been going on for so long. And, we go through our recommendations and I say, okay, here's some supplements that will really help support you. And then I get into, and you need to start taking care of yourself. And I see them like, yeah. I see people brushing it off. I hear them blowing it off, and I have to reel them back in, because no amount of supplements are going to fix this unless you start fixing it here. And it, again, it's just so underplayed and so downplayed that throwing the supplements, it's not going to treat that root cause. And people come to me to dive a little deeper, right? Like, this is how we dive deeper. And I think 10 minutes a day is realistic, and that can be sustainable, where you won't have to rely, on a suite of supplements forever.
I'm so glad you said that, because people, in my experience, when I started sharing my gut health journey, they want the magic pill, right? They don't want to make this entire lifestyle change, which, yes, I have done a complete 180, but I didn't do it overnight. Right? I started with small changes, 10 minutes a day. If you do not have 10 minutes a day to pour into you, you need to delegate, delete. You need to rethink how you're spending your time, because what is going to happen if you keep going at this level? You're going to burn out. Like you said, Hannah, your adrenal glands are going to fail. And that's what happened with me, right? Chronic fatigue. And so many people we talk to have this fatigue. I felt like mine was on steroids. And I'd love for you to just touch a little bit on fatigue, on, adrenals, how that works, and what you recommend people start doing if it's maybe different than the 10 minutes a day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that is something that I get checked with my private clients, is your daily stress trend. And then I'll say, tell me about a day in your life. Like, what does it look like? And most of them who have cortisol issues or these issues with stress have a afternoon slump. So in the afternoons, they are really tired, and at night, they're not sleeping good. So those are, cortisol is very linked to your sleep as well. So if, in the evenings, in the afternoons, your levels aren't coming down how they're supposed to be, they're still up because, again, it can be a stressful time depending what's going on during the day, then, your whole circadian rhythm gets jumbled and your melatonin levels can't respond correctly. And now we're looking at sleep and stress issues, which I see a lot as well. So what you said is just so important. It's not going to be an overnight fix, and fixing your stress, your adrenals, it can take a long time. I'll be honest. It can take months and months and months. Even for some, like I have a couple clients who are CEOs, and I'm like, this might take, a year or more of you doing this every single day for yourself. And you mentioned 10 minutes. Were you asking if you don't have 10 minutes or what to do in those 10 minutes?
Yeah, I mean, maybe what to do within those 10 minutes, right? Thinking that there's a lot you can do on how we can start to heal and give these adrenal glands a break, lower that cortisol.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I feel like I give people so many things they need to do. So that is the part I'm like, what speaks to you? Mm-hmm. What do you feel relaxed? Because maybe I like lymphatic brushing with my little brush, but you're like, no, that's not my thing. I like to listen to music. Okay, perfect. Something that speaks to you. And again, you can just feel yourself taking a breath and you feel not rushed. That's how I always explain it.
I love that. And I think too, if you give yourself this opportunity, then you can see what it means for you. And I think until you do that, because it is tough, like the day that you just went through with the bath at the end and the dinner, and then it's like, and then what's left for me? Oh, that's when I'm exhausted and I'm ready to face plant. So there's literally no time for me.
Or scroll on social media.
Yes. And so I love that, where it's like, what is that where your brain can relax, you can take the deep breath. And I think a lot of people do the scrolling, right? They're like, well, now I can finally look at my phone. And so it's tough because it is accessible, it is easy, it's with us everywhere. And we do want to look at it because our brain knows we're going to get some dopamine when we look at it. So what would you say to people that's like, okay, I'll put 10 minutes of scrolling on my phone in that time?
We're talking about at night, probably.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you sleep okay, and if it's 10 minutes, okay, like that's fine. Put your blue blocking glasses on. And again, if you sleep okay, I'm okay with that. That is relaxing for some people. I know my husband, he needs the TV to go to sleep, and I'm like the anti of that. But sometimes people need that mental distraction where they're not thinking of their to-do lists. So in that case, sure. But if you are having trouble falling asleep, if you're waking up at night, or if you wake up exhausted, try to absolutely not scroll. And what's even worse than scrolling before bed is scrolling in the middle of the night. So if you wake up in the middle of the night and you look at your phone, even an alarm clock to look at the time, you open your eyes and your brain is like, oh, that's light. Even if it's artificial, it's time to wake up. So that often, works in reverse for people trying to get back to sleep, unfortunately.
Yeah. And one other thing too, I think about the 10 minutes is sometimes we need an opportunity to have a break to see all that we do, right? Because you're just going, and there's always a million things to do. You can always have more to clean or do with work or with your kids and doctor forms and appointments. It's absolutely crazy. I think every set of parents needs an assistant for all of the things that kids require. And I think the 10 minutes, especially if you're a parent, is a break to see. Like, I went on a trip with my mom and came back, and I was like, Holy shit. We do so much and it is nonstop. And it's like, you know that, but I think these 10 minutes for anybody too, I mean, it's our culture. Whether you have kids or not, we go, 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 go. And our body just, if you don't figure that out for yourself, your body is going to shut down. Like you said, your adrenals are going to be like, you know what? We have tried to warn you with the no sleep. We've tried to warn you with the acne. We've tried to warn you with a bunch of wild stuff and you're not listening. So we're going to shut down.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's like, you can be in the driver's seat and slow it down, or your body is going to be like, you know what? You didn't listen. So here we are.
And speaking from experience, don't let your body do it. It's a lot harder to restart when you're on E than it is to tap it and be like, okay, I'm going to start now. 10 minutes, you can blink and it'll be gone. Start now. Carve out 10 minutes and stick to it. Like prioritize it. You wouldn't miss your kid's appointment. You wouldn't miss your kid's dance recital. So don't miss this 10 minutes. Like at the end of the day, if you're not prioritizing 10 minutes, you don't love yourself enough. And that's something you got to work on deeper.
All right, Hannah, and while we have you here, I feel like we have a lot of things we want to get into. And so we have a million more questions about birth control, infertility, foods to avoid when you're working on hormone balance, life expectancy, and you have a community of women that ask you all kinds of questions. So we really want to just dive in to all the information we can possibly get out of you. Are you okay with this?
Let's do it.
Love it.